Yeah, we talked about Image, we talked about Valiant. Here's another one of the big daddies of independent comics. We're going to talk about them today.
Welcome to episode 221 of Nerdery and Murdering.
Big 221, I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with the Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the up and down, the good and the bad, the nerd and the murd. I'm ready to go. You ready to take it off?
I am.
Do it.
Woo! Today we're going to talk about Darkhorse Comics.
Cool.
They're an American comic book, graphic novel, and manga publisher founded in Milwaukee, Oregon. I didn't even know that was a place. By Mike Richardson in 1986. The company was created using funds earned from Richardson's chain of Portland, Oregon comic book shops known as Pegasus Books and founded in 1980. So he opened up a comic book shop in 1980, opened up a couple more stores, and used the profits to start his own comic book company. I'm assuming Milwaukee is a suburb of Portland. Dark Horse Comics has emerged as the fourth largest comic publishing company in the United States of America. Dividing profits with artists and writers, much in the same way that Image and Valiant did, as well as supporting artistic and creative rights in the comic book industry. Dark Horse Comics has become a strong proponent of publishing licensed material that often does not fit into mainstream media. Several titles, including Sin City, Hellboy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 300, Ninja Gaiden, and Star Wars. In December 2021, Swedish gaming company Embracer Group launched its acquisition of Dark Horse Media, Dark Horse Comics' parent company, and completed the buyout in March of 2022. So, Dark Horse. What do we say about them? They did the Tales of the Jedi series back in the 1990s, which were phenomenal, of which I still have several of from back in the day. And it basically looked at the years of the Jedi, like 4,000 years before the events of the Battle of Yavin, or what in the Star Wars community is referred to as BBY, before the Battle of Yavin, which is the culmination of the destruction of the first Death Star in A New Hope, or as it was known in 1977, Star Wars.
Right.
They've also did several other things. They were publisher of record for Sin City, Hellboy, and 300, which were pretty nice stuff. And they're number 4, generally behind Marvel, Image, DC, and then them. And DC and Image swap places every once in a while. Marvel is still the top. Mike Richardson was an active follower of the Amateur Press Association, or the APA, an organization focused on critiquing comics through conventions, fan projects, and newsletters. As a result of his involvement, Richardson became acquainted with Randy Stradley, an early Dark Horse Comics collaborator and editor. The two used their contacts from the APA to recruit artists and writers, many of whom were working for several top comic publishing groups. Dark Horse was founded in 1986 with Dark Horse Presents #1, and featured the first appearance of Paul Chadwick's Concrete and Chris Warner's Black Cross, selling approximately 50,000 copies, which was a lot in 1986. And it was a lot better than they'd actually predicted. They were expecting somewhere around 30,000 in sales, and they, blew right through that. The series has become a platform for new creators to highlight their works. The success of Dark Horse Comics can be attributed to a change in comic book marketing that occurred in the 1980s, when comics began to be sold in comic-specific stores, like Mike Richardson's Pegasus Books. After its success, Richardson began buying the rights to several titles, including Godzilla in 1987, Aliens, Predator in 1989, and Star Wars in 1991, which was owned by Marvel, but Marvel wasn't doing anything with it. So they bought the rights from them, and Dark Horse started doing their Tales of the Jedi stuff. They evolved further and began producing toys in 1991. Additionally, in 92, Richardson formed Darkhorse Entertainment, the company's critically acclaimed film and television division. With the release of the first Aliens comic in 1988 and Predator in 1988, Darkhorse Comics popular characters appeared in their own line of work, such as well as Darkhorse Presents, Tarzan, and numerous crossovers that include Superman and Batman of DC Comics and Wildcats of Image. In a 1991 issue of Darkhorse Presents, Frank Miller introduced Sin City, one of Darkhorse Comics' most successful titles. In addition to this title, Miller introduced several other limited series set in dystopian societies, including Give Me Liberty, which ran from 1990 to 1991, and Hard Boiled. The Mask, a miniseries from Mark Badger, debuted in Dark Horse Presents 10 to 20 in 1991 and had a successful film adaptation starring Jim Carrey in 1994. However, comic sales were not strengthened by the success of the film. In 1993, Dark Horse established their own limited series superhero realm with creation of comics' greatest world. However, comic publishing changed in the 1990s due to the comic book crash, which we have talked about before, which was because of a artificially inflated speculative market. And the greatest world titles, most of them were canceled except for Ghost, which is still in publication. Dark Horse returned to their smaller scale business model. Dark Horse Comics created the imprint Legends, and as part of their focus on creators, the publisher began working with Mike Mignola, and in 94, Mignola's character Hellboy first appeared in Hellboy Seeds of Destruction, the beginning of several limited and miniseries which crossed over with crossovers that included Batman in the DC universe. They also did some manga miniseries, Oh My Goddess, and they traditionally did, even though they were in English, they did traditional manga where it starts from the right and goes, it starts at what we would consider the back and works towards the front. The licensing to the unpopular limited series Tarzan was purchased by Dark Horse Comics in 1995 and in 1998. Ghost kind of left from the comic Greatest Worlds and began running as a solo title in 1995, but ended in 98 and subsequently launched once more that same year. So from 95 to 98, Ghost was still part of Comics Greatest World, and then they closed it and then relaunched it a few months later as it's, just a title under Dark Horse itself. Let's talk about some of their releases. Just because I want to say Dark Horse is exactly what the name implies. They're kind of the dark horse of the of the comic industry. They even picked up Archie's with some of the more weirder Archie's comics in a crossover with Minor Threats, Lavender Jack. Look at some of their books here. Rolf, Aquina, Berserker, The Brood, Midst, The Carlisle Kings, The Stone Shore Register, The Witcher, which is pretty big right now because of a TV series. Chibi Usagi, which is one of their mangas, as well as Gunsmith Cats, Jupiter's Legacy, King of Spies, Renegade Royale, Living Hell. There's just some really great titles in here that came from Dark Horse, like Welcome to the Maynard, stuff of that nature, as well as these other titles that they bought licensing for. Eisner Award-winning Usagi Yojimbo, written and drawn for the third-generation Japanese-American artist Stan Sakabe, debuted in Dark Horse Comics in 1996 as a monthly issue and ran until 2019. They also began translating the manga series of Hikari Samara, Blade of the Immortal, in 96, and also ended that in 2015. For the first free comic book day, Dark Horse Comics published Star Wars Tales, A Jedi's Weapon, and has participated in the event every year. So how that boils down is comic book shops will release a free comic, actually several now at this point, from different companies. So you go in, you pick up your free comic, and you're encouraged to buy other comics while you're there. It's a way to get people into comic book shops. It's a big event, and it happens all across the United States and Canada. as well as Britain and France as well, I believe. And it all coincides on the same day. It's called Free Comic Book Day. I believe the first one was on May 4th. I think the subsequent ones were on May 4th as well. In 2006, Darkhorse was number 3. Per Diamond Comic Distributors, Marvel had 36.9%, DC had 32.9%, and Darkhorse had 5.6%. And Image was right behind them. Usually they rank lower than Image. But in 2006, they ranked higher. In 2007, Darkhorse donated copies of all its published works to the Portland State University Library, which maintains both a browsing collection of book titles in addition to a research collection, which also includes every print, poster, statue, figure, and all other products. And as of July 15th, 2016, the library has cataloged over 10,000 titles and is the official archive of Darkhorse publications. So even if Darkhorse ever goes away, it will be saved for posterity at the Portland Library, which is where the company was founded and operates out of. In 2011, Darkhorse Presents relaunched, including the return of Paul Chadwick's Concrete and Steve Niles' Criminal Macabre, as well as new talent including Sanford Green, Carlos Speed McNeil, Nate Crosby, and others. Starting in 2013, Darkhorse began to reprint EC archives, picking up the projects of reprinted classics EC comics from the 50s where Gladstone left off, using the same size and format as Gladstone, with all the stories reprinted in order and in full color. I love Darkhorse. I think they're great. They produce a really quality product. Not just the stories and the art, but the actual paper is pretty quality. Much in the same way Image was. It caused Marvel and DC to step up their game. And what was cool about Dark Horse back in the day is they would produce like a Tales from the Jedi comic, and then they would collect them all into a graphic novel so you could buy it as a set. But they would also produce what they called ash can copies, which were full shaded black and white copies of all of their comics. And I collected those for a long time because I loved the way the ash can stuff looked. It was just really pretty. And especially for, black and white stuff, it was some of the best stuff I'd seen. And, I like a black and white comic as much as the next guy. Full color is nice, but sometimes black and white is better for the story. And so, I just dig it. What do you think?
Marvel's taken DC back now, hasn't? Marvel's taken Star Wars back now, haven't they?
No, I think Dark Horse still
has them. Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That kind of shocks me.
Yeah, I think, as far as I know, Dark Horse still has them.
But I mean, the Mouse House has. They would have taken it back.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, Marvel wasn't doing anything with it. When the movies came out, Marvel had a nice series of Star Wars comics that sold okay. Mm-hmm. But they weren't great. I mean, they were like, they took place between the movies.
Right.
There was some good stuff, but not nearly what Dark Horse was doing, because Dark Horse was like, you know what? We don't care about the Skywalker saga. We want to explore the Star Wars universe, and that's what they did. Now, granted, they still did, the Age of Empire stuff. And the stuff that took place between the books of Age of Empire. But that's not where their focus was. Their focus was in the Tales of the Jedi stuff, which was phenomenal. And a lot of the errata that we have now in the Star Wars universe is because of that. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are pulling from those comics to bring stuff into the world. I mean, that's essentially what the Acolyte was. It was like a Tales of the Jedi series. And if you liked that, Acolyte was right up your alley, like the Freedom Nod uprising that Dark Horse did, which was
I do not understand the hate for Acolyte. I really
don't. I don't either, because again, I'm watching it and I'm like, dude, this is like a fucking Dark Horse comic. What's going on? I mean, even played like a Dark Horse comic. I had to go look it up to see if Dark Horse had actually done this particular bit of the series, but I couldn't find anything on this particular saga. So But I'm watching it and I'm thinking, my God, this is a Dark Horse comic come to
Mhm.
life. And they were really well drawn too. Again, I would recommend some of the Ash Can stuff, and it's still out there and readily available. But the full color stuff pretty much played out. If you like the way Acolyte looked, go check these comics out. They're fucking fanabulous,
Yeah,
fanabulous,
yeah.
fanabulous.
Dark Horse is great. Dark Horse had a lot of really cool titles. Um, I love Sin City because I love that very noir stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
they like to do some of the noir stuff too. I mean, that
mhm.
was kind of their bread and butter for a while.
But Dark Horse, I mean, Dark Horse has done a lot of stuff that's been really good. They've got stuff that's been made into TV shows and movies.
Yeah,
The Mask
yeah.
was a Dark Horse. The Rocketeer was Dark Horse.
Rocketeer. Yeah,
Resident Alien that I love
yeah.
was
Was a
was
Dark Horse
was
series.
was Dark Horse. I haven't watched it, but a lot of people like Avatar: The Last Bender. That was Dark Horse.
Yeah,
Um, Pink Girl, I really didn't like that, and Barbed Wire, but those were made in a movie. Mystery Men was really cool.
yeah.
Hellboy is Dark
Hellboy.
Horse.
Yeah,
R.I.P.D., which I love.
yeah.
Uh,
R.I.P.D.
Dark Horse. They had a lot of really cool title
Yeah,
that I absolutely enjoyed.
yeah. The Ghostbuster series. Tramps of the Apocalypse is also fucking awesome. Christopher Chaos. I'm looking at some of their other stuff. Of course, Chase and Amy and Quick Stop was all done on Dark Horse, even though Kevin Smith moved on to a different company, as well as a comic series of Stranger Things. Um,
Really.
yeah, yeah, that's stuff they're doing right now.
Hmm.
Um, of course, they've got some of the toys and models and stuff. You see them a lot in the comic book stuff or the comic book shops. Um, you can tell that the people who started Dark Horse were originally comic book shop people
Hmm.
because basically they tailored their product for those stores. Um, yeah, in 2017, they entered a partnership with Krypton Future Media to publish official English language of Hatsune Miku related manga. And in late 2018, they set up comic books for the Mysticons was released. Vanguard Visionary Associates, Chinese media production company, became a partner of Dark Horse's subsidiary, Dark Horse Entertainment. Um, Forbes and Publishers Weekly reported that the investment stakes were rumored to be about $20 million. In 2020, Dark Horse announced it was severing ties with the writer and editor Scott Alley after a former Dark Horse employee accused him of sexual harassment, sexual assault. So that was kind of bad. And founder Mike Richardson released a statement to the Beat, which in part, in this particular case, action was taken immediately, though we did not and cannot perform a public flogging, as some might wish. Although Richardson said actions had been taken, Alley continued as an editor for Dark Horse for a little while, but they did have to. He had a contract, so they had to let the contract expire or pay him a crap ton of money. Um, but in December of 2021, Dark Horse was put up for sale to a Hollywood studio. Rumored potential buyers were Netflix and the Walt Disney Company, but a representative could comment. However, later in the month, Embracer Group, which is a video game holding company, announced that it launched its acquisition of Dark Horse Media. Um, Embracer finalized the acquisition of Dark Horse on March 14th of 2022. Dark Horse Comics had acquired the rights to make comic book adaptations of many popular films, video games, and series, which includes Aliens, Army of Darkness, RoboCop, The Thing, Star Wars, The Terminator, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Planet of the Apes, Let Me In, Ninja Gaiden, Plants vs. Zombies, and Avatar: The Last Airbender. Um, CCP Games announced Dark Horse would be publishing a series of comic books based on stories collected from players in the MMORPG EVE Online. And in 2014, Lucasfilms announced that as of 2015, future Star Wars comics will be published by Lucasfilms' corporate sibling Marvel Comics. And in 2017, Dark Horse Comics began publishing Critical Role,
So there
Vox
you so,
Machine.
so there you go. Marvel has taken Star Wars back.
Yeah, except that Dark Horse still has Star Wars titles, like new.
Hmm.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let me pull this up. I was just looking at one. Where the hell are you? Yeah, here's some. I think it's their,
Oh,
yeah.
here we go.
Hyperspace Stories.
Um, yeah, on November 18th, 2021, it was announced that Dark Horse Comics would once again publish Star Wars comics beginning around the second quarter of 2022. Hyperspace Stories, Tales from the Rancor Pit, and they're going to go into the High Republic area or era.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
but Dark Horse has just published on July 30th Hyperspace Stories Tides of Terror #1. So
No, that's what I
they
said. That's part of it. Yeah. So you're right. Marvel did take it back, but Dark Horse still has some titles that they're
Oh,
doing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. They're still running some titles.
Yep.
Um Dark Horse Entertainment, they do have a shop on the lot of 20th Century Fox through a first look deal with Larry Gordon and Largo Entertainment. And with Netflix, they produced the following shows for television: Duckman, The Mask, Time Cop, Fat Dog Mendoza, Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot, the BRPD Declassified, The Amazing Screw on Head, Axe Cop, Dark Matter, The Umbrella Academy, which is Gerard Way, The Rocketeer, Resident Alien, Samurai Rabbit, Fear Agent Grendel, Mind MGMT, Sin City Word. These are all animated short series or full on series that they're running. They also did Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, Mysticons, Troll Hunters, Ninja Gaiden, Tomb Raider. And the films they released were Dr. Giggles, The Mask, Time Cop, Tank Girl, Enemy, Barbed Wire, Mystery Men, Virus, G-Men from Hell, American Splendor, Time Cop 2, The Berlin Decision, Alien vs. Predator, Hellboy, Sin City, Son of the Mask, Hellboy, Sword of Storms, 300, Hellboy, Blood and Iron, which was animated, as well as Sword of Storms, Alien vs. Predator, Requiem, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, R.I.P.D., Sin City, A Game to Kill For, 300, Rise of an Emperor, Polar, Hellboy in 2019, Chicken Hare and the Hamster of Darkness, which was animated, R.I.P.D. 2, Rise of the Damned, Hellboy the Crooked Man, Bang, Department H, Emily the Stranger, Lady Killer, a Tank Girl reboot, which is in process, The Black Kaiser, and The Goon. And of course, they did the manga as we talked about.
I'm going to tell you right now, and it's veering away from the comics, but of course it was based on that. If you haven't seen it, R.I.P.D. is a very underrated movie.
Yes.
I love R.I.P. Now, R.I.P.D. 2, not as much. It's not as
Yeah.
good, but the original, I wish they had done another with the original cast. I like um I've lost his name right now, but the actor who is the star of the second one, the actor from Burn Notice. Um, anyway, who played the title character or the main character in Burn Notice? He's
I want
the
to say Tate Donovan, but that's not right. Something
no,
Donovan.
it is Donovan. It's Donovan, something Donovan. You're right.
Yeah.
Um, Michael Donovan? No, I don't remember. But anyway,
Yeah.
he's the star of the second one, and it's just not as good. The first one was really, really good. Sorry, I didn't mean to tail away from comics, but I really like
No, 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 no. Now I have
R.I.P.D.
to look that up. Jeffrey Donovan.
Jeffrey Donovan. Thank you.
Yeah, and he
Um,
also did the American version of Touching Evil too, which was really good and really underrated.
really, what's it? Is it called Touching Evil?
Yeah, it was right before he did Burn Notice, but they did an American version of the British series Touching Evil with Robson Greer. But it was with
Oh, he is. Look at that.
yeah, he's really good. Matter of fact,
Mhm.
also very young. Oh, the guy. Oh my God, what the hell is his name? Uh, he was in The Hangover.
Uh, Zach Galifianakis.
The blonde, the one who got real famous.
Oh, my God,
I cannot think of his name. He was
what is wrong
in
with me?
Yeah, he was in the Touching Evil series. It's Jeffrey Donovan that convinced him to because he used to wear his hair real short cropped to grow his hair out. and that he would get more roles. And he was right. And he's always attributed that to Jeffrey Donovan, because Jeffrey Donovan looked at him and went, if you grew your hair out, you'd
Um,
probably get more roles.
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper.
Jesus, I can't believe I
Yeah,
couldn't
it,
get
it
his
was.
name
And,
out.
and if you see Bradley Cooper with short hair does not look like Bradley Cooper.
Hmm.
He is in that Touching Evil series, which again only lasted for like a season, and it was produced by Bruce Willis, but it was really good. Takes place in San Francisco, not in London. But yeah, it's really, really great.
Well, and I really like Jeffrey Donovan.
Oh, you totally would love him in Touching
I
Evil.
love Burn Notice. I've watched it multiple times. I'm gonna watch this now if I can find it. Looks like it's on Prime, so I may be able to get it.
Yeah.
He did a show called uh
Oh, the one with the tarot readers?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was really good.
that was really good because the basically the villain in the Shut Eye was the
Shut
name of
Eye.
that.
Yeah.
The villain in that one is if you watch the Lincoln Lawyer TV series, Cisco from the Lincoln Lawyer is the bad guy in Shut Eye. Um, Shut Eye was really really good, and unfortunately it got canceled. It was way too short. Jeffrey Donovan, I just like stuff he's in.
Yeah. He's really
Yeah,
believable.
I'm gonna have to watch Touching Evil now.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. It is as good as the British series, but the pace is a little faster. It's a little more actiony, whereas the British Touching Evil was way more horror oriented. And just like the British series, they kill people off. They are not shy of that. Oh, circling back as we do. Former executive editor of Vertigo, Karen Berger. So, Vertigo was a DC imprint, and it's my favorite imprint. They got canceled and rolled into another bit of DC. So when that happened, Karen Berger, who had run Vertigo from its inception in the 90s to keep up with Image, uh, she signed a deal with Darkhorse in 2017. Titles published under the imprint include Hungry Ghosts, uh, Incog- Incognito, previously published through Vertigo, and a prequel, Incognito Renaissance. Both were written by Matt Johnson. The Seeds, written by Anna Nicoletti. She Could Fly with Christopher Cantwell, and LaGuardia, written by uh, Nindi Okorafor. They also produced some games. Secret Stash pressed. It was announced that Darkhorse and filmmaker Kevin Smith would be teaming up to publish books for the Secret Stash Press, a new publisher line by Smith. The first two books on the line include Masquerade, written by Smith and Andy McElfresh, and Quick Stops, written by Smith and set within the View Askew-verse. It's basically stuff that takes place in the Quick Stop. They look pretty funny. Dogu Publishing, it's just their arm that does the manga. Albatross Funny Books. Eric Pallad brought the Albatross Funny Books imprint to Darkhorse. It would include series such as The Goon, Hillbilly and Big Man Plans, as well as Brendan Small's Galacticon and Rebecca Sugar's Pug Davis. Those are basically goofy comics, which we all love. Miller World, which is Mark Miller has signed a deal with Darkhorse to become the new publisher of Miller World titles, including reprints of previous titles and a new series. Is mostly Nemesis Rogue Galleries. So Darkhorse, even though they've been bought, it looks like everybody involved in Darkhorse is still basically running it. They just got a cash influx. Mike Richardson and and his wife are still running the show. In our YouTube playlist, there's about a 45-minute there's about a 45-minute video on how Darkhorse came about with a bunch of pictures of them. They were huge comic book nerds. They owned comic book shops in the 80s in and around Portland and, Milwaukee, which I'm assuming is a suburb of Portland. And how they got pissed off because they've tried to get a comic published that their friend was doing. They couldn't get it done through the majors or any of the minors, so they just started their own fucking publishing company. And it's the story of how that started with this little idea and just became this huge company. So yeah, definitely check that out. And how they said they fought Marvel. There's a great picture of the two of them in the opening of our YouTube playlist with her in a metal bikini and him just like he's having a conversation and he's just looking straight down. It's his wife, but he's just looking straight down the bikini. It's like, oh yeah, having a hard time concentrating there, buddy. And she's just laughing at it. You could tell she knows exactly what she's doing. She's smiling as big as she can. Check it out. It's good. There's some other stuff about the best Dark Horse comics and stuff like that, but the They Fought Marvel uh, YouTube movie, I could not put all of that information into this episode. Otherwise, I'd just be paraphrasing the whole thing. But it's definitely check that part out. And then the other stuff about, hey, this is what Dark Horse is doing. This is what they have. And since the buyout, they're still running things as before. They got a little bit more money behind them. And it's still rolling. It is a company that is very comic book shop friendly, which is what we like. It's like Modifius in a previous episode that was a game company. Same thing. They're comic book shop centric, and that's what we want. We want more people going into little local comic book shops picking up cool shit.
Absolutely.
Starting community.
Absolutely.
But that's about it for Dark Horse. Get out there, check their stuff out. Some of the stuff you may have seen, the movies and stuff like that, it's some of the lesser known stuff, but it's just as good. And I would say in some cases better than some of the stuff that's being produced by Image or Marvel or even DC. I think DC kind of stepped on their own dicks when they canceled Vertigo because the imprint they put out after that is not nearly as good. So the people that were at Vertigo that wanted to stay there just went over to Dark Horse. I would say the acquisition of that is a feather in Dark Horse's cap because Vertigo was the best shit that DC was producing for about 10 years. But yeah, that's about it for the Dark Horses.
And that's great. I did not know a lot of those titles. A lot of those titles I've only become familiar with because of movies.
Yeah.
I was really surprised at how many of the Dark Horse titles have been movies and TV shows and shit like that. I was like, damn, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were kind of known for picking up IPs and making comic books off of them for a long time. But that's not what they were. The stuff that they were actually doing in-house instead of those IPs, which were good. I mean, let's not lie. The stuff that they picked up for other IPs was all real quality stuff. But it was like the difference between shooting a bullet and throwing it to the stuff that they were actually publishing by their own creators. And it ended up making movies and TV shows off of their products, which is great.
That's great. That's awesome. So cool. Thanks for the journey down that. I appreciate that.
Sure.
That was some really interesting stuff and saw some stuff that made me add to another list. So
yeah,
I gotta
you're welcome.
Figure out how to narrow this shit down.
You gotta narrow this shit down. God damn it! I gotta go make another trip to the comic book shop. Speaking of which, you got any good comic book shops down there?
I haven't been into any yet. I know there's one right over by the CVS I get my prescription from. There's a comic book shop, and I need one of these because every time I pass it, I see comics. I need to step in. I want to see what they're like, but I haven't been into any down here yet.
You might be able to sign up and get involved with a role playing game.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. That's absolutely. Keith did that. I mean, that's
how we met you guys.
Well, that's how he met Don, and through that everything else. And I know he did that when he moved for a while. He had looked at comic book shops and things like that. But yeah, I need to stop in. I need to stop in and take a look. So cool, awesome. With that, we will step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
So for today, I got my information off Wikipedia, Medium, the Columbus Dispatch, and NBC4i Columbus. and this is the murder of Reagan Tokes.
Reagan hoax?
Tokes, Tokes.
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 Reagan Tokes.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So I cover a lot of these types of crimes, and they're all sad and tragic. Don't get me wrong when I say this; they're all sad and tragic. But sometimes they just make me angry for one reason or another. Sometimes it's the callousness of the criminal or lack of remorse, while others it's just the flat out failures of the justice system. This one pretty much ticked all the boxes, and this one made me extra angry. Um, Reagan Delaney Tokes was born on March 13th, 1995, in Edgewood, Kentucky, to Toby Tokes and Lisa McCrary Tokes.
Okay.
She had a younger sister, Mackenzie. She was raised in Mommy, Ohio, in the Monclova Township. She graduated from Anthony Wayne High School, where she had a 4.5 GPA, and played on the varsity lacrosse and tennis teams. The year she began college, her parents and sister moved to Florida, leaving Reagan in Ohio to begin attending the Ohio State University. Reagan had wanted to attend OSU since she was a child. She originally majored in pre-med, but changed her major to psychology. And she also planned to attend graduate school, get another degree in psychology, and open up her own psychology practice. Awesome. Great job.
Yep.
In the winter of 2017, when she was 21 years old, Reagan was at the jumping off point of her life. She was only months from graduating from OSU with a degree in psychology. She already had a job lined up at the prestigious Cleveland Clinic. And with the ultimate goal of opening her own practice, she was preparing to take the world by storm. Sadly, owing to circumstances beyond her control, she would never get the chance. On February 2nd, Reagan finished up her shift at Columbus's trendy bodega bar and restaurant around 9:45 p.m. She normally had one of her male coworkers walk her to her car, but on this occasion, it was busy and it forced her to make the short walk on her own. Over 1,000 miles away, her father, Toby, was waiting word from Reagan that she had made it back to her off-campus apartment safe and sound. He spoke to her shortly before she left work, and he had expected her to call at any moment, like she did every night, like clockwork. But as the minutes turned into hours without any word from Reagan, her parents grew increasingly concerned. Um, Even with that, though, hoping that she had just lost track of time, they left several messages on her voicemail, asked her to get in touch with them as soon as possible. And with nothing left to do, they just kind of spent a restless night anticipating a call that would never come. In the morning, Reagan's parents, along with her younger sister Mackenzie, had checked their phones immediately once they woke, but their hearts sank when they saw that there was no communication from Reagan that had come through. They sensed that something was terribly wrong, so her mother had called Columbus police to report her daughter missing. And while the officer she spoke to was sympathetic to her plight, he informed her that only those who had last seen the person in question could file the report. That sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
That's bullshit.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what their laws are. Maybe he's right. I mean, they did say that the officer was sympathetic, but I kind of think this is bullshit. To me, if you've got somebody who calls you like clockwork and they still haven't called in the morning, there's reason to worry. You can do a health check.
Hmm.
You absolutely can do a health check. I've done this. I've done this for people who worked for me that just disappeared. And granted, none of them it was nothing tragic, but I had them do a health check, and the police happily did it, even though I wasn't the last person to see them, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, um, anger point number one. During the same time, Reagan's roommates had discovered that her bed had not been slept in. She failed to show up for class, which was unheard of.
Yeah.
They called the bodega to see if her coworkers had an idea where she might have gone, but no one could account for her whereabouts, and her employer filed a missing persons report with the authorities, thankfully. Um, However, before the ink was even dry on the official paperwork, there was a morning visitor to Scioto Grove Metro Park in Grove City, which was 15 minutes outside of Columbus, who called 911, informing them they had made a horrific discovery. Discarded in the weeds near a walking path lay the body of a young woman who had obviously been met with foul play. Authorities rushed to the scene and determined that the victim, who was wearing only a necklace, had been shot twice, one in the back of the head and once in the face. There was a rape kit that was performed later in the day that found she had been sexually assaulted prior to death. Um, Aware that a local college student had vanished the night before, detectives quickly put two and two together, and they were fairly certain that they had found Reagan Tokes. They had to have someone make it official. Her parents weren't available, but her uncle, who lived near, agreed to identify the body. And so he did confirm that the victim found in the park was his missing niece. Detectives were determined to find her killer, so they headed to the bodega to try to retrace her steps and find out what would turn out to be the last night of her life. They got security footage that was taken from inside the establishment that did show her leaving the door right on schedule. She was alone. There was no indication she was being followed, but the outside cameras were not in use. So what happened after that was a mystery. Her Acura TL was also missing, indicated that she had left the premises either alone or accompanied by an unknown party. So police then learned that Reagan had recently broken up with her boyfriend Jake. So investigators made arrangements for him to come in for an interview.
Mhm.
It was common knowledge among those in the couple's inner circle that the two had split, and it had been mutual, but they remained on good terms. But detectives weren't so sure. Uh, this may have been perfectly innocent, but there was a post that Jake had uploaded on one of his social media accounts regarding following the news of his ex-girlfriend's untimely death, which then up red flags. Message he put that he had actually written to Reagan. He mentioned that she was, quote, in a better place, which investigators felt was an odd thing to say about someone who had been brutally murdered. So they confronted him about his curious take on the situation, and Jake explained that while he was shocked and devastated by her sudden death, he had found some comfort in the thought that Reagan was no longer afraid or suffering and hoped that their mutual friends would do the same. According to him, there had been no dark undertones or sinister meaning. He was merely trying to find a way to feel better in some small way. The detectives had concerns about this, but then rolled him out as a person of interest because his alibi actually checked out. At the end of the
Mhm.
day, he was exactly what he proclaimed to be. He was just someone who'd experienced a terrible loss and was dealing with it as best as they could. In a stroke of luck, a license plate sensor attached to a privately owned garbage truck identified Reagan's car, which had been parked on a residential street along their route. Investigators raced to that scene and they discovered the Acura reeking of gasoline and littered with cigarette butts. There were burn marks that were evident on the seats, indicating that someone had tried and failed to set the vehicle on fire. The gas can had been left behind, along with several ATM receipts, all dated for the night of the murder. And after confirming with her family that Reagan didn't smoke, the remnants were submitted for DNA testing. A few hours later, the source of the biological material found on the cigarette butts was pinpointed. The person who had smoked up a storm inside the Acura was a career criminal with a history of sex crimes named Brian Goldsby. On February 11th, 2 days after Reagan's body was found, 29-year-old Brian Goldsby was arrested and brought in for questioning. He hadn't been hard to find because he had been released to a halfway house after serving a 6-year prison stint, and he was still technically under court-ordered supervision. Let's talk about Brian Lee Goldsby. He was born on January 26, 1988. He says he had an abusive mother and was affected by drug and alcohol abuse. He also claims to have experienced a rape in his youth, although prosecutors later dispute this as the stories he gave were inconsistent. He started committing crimes as a juvenile. These crimes included criminal trespassing, receiving stolen property, theft, shoplifting, criminal damaging, and threatening his mother with a knife. According to a juvenile sex offender assessment filed by the Ohio Department of Youth Services, Goldsby raped 5-year-old girls and 6-year-old boys and was a member of the Crips gang during his youth. The crime that actually put him away, although not for long, had involved the abduction and rape of a woman at gunpoint, or knife point, excuse me. In November of 2010, he had snuck up on the victim as she was loading her 2-year-old son into a car seat in a store parking lot. He held the blade to her throat and threatened to kill her and her child if she didn't cooperate. She was 8 months pregnant at the time, and she gave in to his demands. Anger point number 2 and 3. Um, when he was finished, Goldsby forced her to drive to an ATM and withdraw cash. He was enjoying his control over her, and he had ordered her to drive to her house where he invited himself in. He raped her once again, stole a DVD player before he fled off into the night. Um, the woman wasted no time reporting the assault to police, and when the court date rolled around, though, she refused to testify. She feared what would happen to her and her children if she took the stand against her attacker, so she opted out of the proceedings. The case could still move forward based on the physical evidence, and the state hedged their bet by offering Goldsby a plea deal he couldn't refuse. So in May of 2011, he pleaded guilty to attempted rape and robbery and received 2 6-year sentences to be served concurrently. 5.5 years later, in November of 2016, he walked out of prison into a halfway house. 3 months later, he went looking for another victim, only this time he made sure that she wouldn't live hell.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I was just looking him up. While he was in prison, he committed 52 infractions.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up. I got it in my notes. I've got all
Okay.
that. Yeah,
I was like, man, I need
you're hitting on anger point 4 and 5 now.
to.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, I have that in my notes. When police picked up Goldsby, he was staying. I'm sorry, let me back up. That's going to be anger points 6 and 7. Here's anger points 4 and 5. When they picked him up, he was still wearing the GPS tracking bracelet issued to him by the Department of Corrections as part of his early release. And while the device was intended to monitor his comings and goings, it was later learned that no one, not his parole officer or the supervisors at the halfway house, were keeping tabs on his whereabouts. Why even have it if you're not going to keep tabs?
Yep.
So he had free reign to do as he pleased. So he had taken full advantage of the freedom that he neither earned or deserved. And while the bracelet had done nothing to deter his criminal activity, it did allow authorities to track his movements on the night of the murder. The tracker did reveal that not only was he in the vicinity of the bodega at the time that Reagan was getting off work, but he was also in Scioto Park hours later when she was killed. At the start of his interrogation, Goldsby denied knowing anything about the case. When he was informed the DNA evidence linked him to the victim by the cigarette butts and results of the rape kit, he changed his story. He amended his accounts and he admitted to the abduction and sexual assault, but insisted he had dropped Reagan off in the park, shaken but very much alive. Detectives acted on a hunch and suggested that perhaps he was protecting a third party who was somehow involved in the killing. He fell headfirst in their trap and, suddenly recalled that his friend PJ had been present for most of the ordeal. Goldsby claimed he was an innocent bystander and he had watched helplessly as his buddy marched the pretty brunette into the darkness and fired 2 shots into her head. So sensing that they were getting close to the truth by the minute, his interrogators pushed Goldsby to come clean while he still could. He realized he had stepped in it, so he relented, telling them that he would give. I'm going to push forward. Those are points 7 and 8. Here's now points 6 and 5 and 6 of being angry. Realizing he had stepped into it, suspect relented, telling them that he would give them what they wanted, but he would need 2 hamburgers before getting down to business. This motherfucker just pisses me off. Sorry. Once his appetite was sated, he confessed to the rape and murder of Regan Tokes. So he told the whole story. He recalled that evening that he had been so antsy that he'd gotten on a city bus and headed into the heart of Columbus looking for someone to rob, maybe more, depending on his mood. He saw Reagan leaving the bodega and immediately knew what he had to do. He cornered her as she was getting into her car, demanded at knife point that she drive him to an ATM and withdraw $500. He tried to calm her by assuring her that he only wanted money and would let her go once the transaction was complete. Reagan, realizing that resistance was not going to be something she needed to do, she did as she was told. Unfortunately, things went bad when the withdrawal was denied at the
she didn't have $500 in the bank.
Right, it was denied the first one, and then in another ATM. Goldsby had determined he was going to get something for his trouble, so he ordered Reagan to park in an alley where he forced her to perform oral sex. This was at 10:16 p.m., which was a mere half hour after she left the bodega. Still wanting a payday, he told Reagan to try yet another ATM. This time she successfully withdrew $60 and handed it over to him, hoping he would be true to his word and let her go. At 11:41, CCTV footage taken at a gas station showed Reagan's car pulling up to the pumps. It's presumed the next stop was the Scioto Grove Metro Park, the site of the murder. Upon arriving at the park, which was deserted due to the late hour, Goldsby had ordered Reagan to take off her clothes and start walking. She had to have known what was coming. There was a gun barrel only inches from her head, and she stepped barefoot into the frigid cold. Moments later, shots rang out, and according to Goldsby, the last words she had spoken in this life were, quote, "I just want to live." When he was certain that Reagan was dead, he fled the scene, tossing the murder weapon into a storm drain. Investigators would subsequently retrieve the gun with the help of Goldsby. This whole thing just makes me mad. This is over $60.
Mm-hmm.
He murdered her. I mean, he ended up getting $60 for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's maddening. This was a calculating killer. He had a heart of stone. After he had murdered her, he went to his girlfriend's apartment where he gifted her Reagan's designer handbag and wallet. And then they went out for burgers at a fast food restaurant. What the fuck is it with this guy and burgers?
He likes cheeseburgers.
I guess so. It was 1:45 in the morning, and the halfway house had a 10 p.m. curfew, but not a soul is reported as the absence of the proper authorities. Again, why is he tagged? Why does he have the tracker? Why?
Yeah, honestly, that could have gone to the police department at 10 o'clock, and they may have been able to save her.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Hey, Hobie's not here by 10 o'clock. Here's where he is. We have him GPS tagged.
Right. I mean, CCTV footage showed them at 11:41. If he had been reported missing at 10 p.m., they could have tracked him to his ankle monitor before the murder and stopped it.
Exactly.
Anger points 9 and 10.
There you go. Exactly.
And 11 and 12.
Yeah. They could have prevented a murder by just doing what they were supposed to be doing.
I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers out there. I'm sorry. This did anger me.
Having said that, this begs the question, why do we not properly fund shit like this?
I know.
We spend enough money to destroy the world 10 times over. We have the two biggest air forces in the world. Why?
Right.
Why?
I know.
We just have the first one and spend all of that money on funding stuff like people tracking these GPS things and going, this guy's supposed to be at home at 10 o'clock. He's not there.
Well, the problem was people could have tracked him. They had the ability, just no one was monitoring it.
Exactly.
This was a failure.
Because more than likely, because there was nobody, that job is probably not filled because there's not enough money to go around. Every time they cut budgets for stuff like this is the stuff that gets cut first. It's like, oh, we don't necessarily need that. We can either hire another cop or we could pay these people to monitor this. You know what? Let's hire the other cop. It's an if or.
I don't know.
And honestly, we're spending the money in the wrong place.
Well, after his
from a purely mathematical perspective.
Well, after his night on the town with his girlfriend was done, he dropped her off, and she had no idea that she was in possession of a dead woman's belongings. And then he continued along his way. Dawn was coming on, and he purchased a gas can and fuel with the intention of burning the Acura and any evidence it might hold. Those efforts failed, so he abandoned the vehicle near his girlfriend's apartment and walked away as nothing had happened. And he assumed he was clear since there was no chance of Reagan turning it in, and it was only when detectives came calling that he knew he had slipped up.
Mm-hmm.
So he was charged with aggravated murder, kidnapping, rape, tampering with evidence, possession of a deadly weapon. 7 counts of robbery perpetrated upon victims he had terrorized in the days leading up to the murder were also included.
Yeah, I'm looking at those right now. Yeah.
Investigators determined that Goldsby, an masked assailant who had been pistol whipping and robbing pedestrians in the area of Columbus Grove City in recent weeks, were one and the same. The victims, all of whom were women, reported they had been targeted while outside alone. Several had been beaten about the head when they failed to comply with the perpetrator's demands in a timely fashion. Ironically, Reagan had been aware of the masked bandit and had even spoken to her father about the rash of robberies.
Hmm.
He feared for her safety, so he urged her to be extra careful, especially when she got off work. And she generally looked out for herself as best as she could, but she had fallen victim to the predator that she hadn't seen coming.
Hmm.
So here we go. A look into Goldsby's criminal past revealed he had been in trouble with the law for most of his life. His juvenile record, which was a mile long, included charges of menacing robbery and the rapes of two children under the ages of 7. Reagan's family was shocked to learn that her killer had been written up a staggering, as you said it, 52 times for infractions committed while he was serving time for raping a pregnant woman that we talked about earlier.
Yep.
The laundry list of offenses included stealing, fighting, and insubordination. And thanks to flaws in the system, which allowed inmates to act with impunity while incarcerated, Goldsby faced no threats of punishment for his actions. Likewise, his antisocial behavior and inability to conform had no bearing on his bid for early release. He proved to be such a headache for prison officials that he had been shuttled off to no less than 5 facilities during as many years. And this is what makes it all the more puzzling. The prison system couldn't handle him. Why return him to the society? Anyway, uh, it, go ahead.
We're living in a failed state, sir. That's why.
Well,
We're living in a failed state. We are a third world country dressed up as a first world country. We're 50 third world countries in a long coat.
sometimes it does seem that way. I mean, especially something like this. I mean, here we go. In what was a terrible bit of timing, Goldsby had actually been scheduled to appear in court on February 23rd, 3 weeks after the murder, to answer for the numerous robberies he had committed while on parole. I mean, had the justice system worked, he would have been returned to prison immediately instead of being allowed to walk the streets until a hearing could be held. Because
Yeah.
he was being charged. He probably, I don't know, did he possibly make bail? But surely his bail should have been astronomical. Who knows?
Hmm.
Uh, very honestly, as a result of this very glaring procedural error, an innocent woman was subjected to a nightmare for which
Well,
she's
not
never going to
not
wake.
just her. You got okay. January 24th.
Well, no.
Woman.
I'm talking about for subjected to a nightmare that someone was never going to wake for. I'm talking about
Yeah.
Reagan
Yeah.
because her murder was preventable.
Yeah.
It was
All of these other
absolutely preventable.
robberies and beatings and other with pistol whipping was also preventable. The
Yes,
first time that dude didn't show up at 10 o'clock, they knew where he was. They
right.
just, again, my assumption, and again, that could be a wrong assumption, is that the person who was supposed to be monitoring that job was probably sitting unfilled because of budget shortfalls.
Yeah, I
Because
don't
it's
know.
happening all over the country and has been for the last 20 years or so.
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
I, I have a friend who works for 911,
Mm-hmm.
and they're constantly having budget shortfalls,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
constantly, and it's like, why? That's like that is like the cheapest. That's like the cheapest part of this whole system. That we can pay. That is the least expensive part of this whole operation. Why aren't we funding that? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we need more cops on the street. We need riot gear. Really? No, let's pay somebody
Uh,
to.
well, sometimes they do need riot gear. No,
Yeah,
there are
yeah,
times that
but
they
they
do.
don't need a tank.
Sometimes.
They don't need. The Fort PD does not need a tank. I'm sorry.
No, probably not. Yeah, I mean, you need a tank. You call in the National Guard. If you're facing a threat that you
Exactly.
need a
But
tank,
we,
yes, you
but
call in
we
the National Guard.
paid for a tank as opposed to paying for someone to monitor these ankle bracelets.
Now, I don't think we're meaning a tank like a Bradley or an Abrams.
No, no, no. But
I
it's
think
a
you're
riot
talking.
tank,
I think I
a
think you're
city
about.
master.
Yeah, you're talking a city master, a SWAT heavy duty vehicle is what you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's not a tank,
it,
but it's
it's
armored
built
like
like a
one.
tank.
Yeah. Goldsby's trial kicked off on March 5th, 2018. His former girlfriend, the one he spent with on the night of the murder, she testified against him. Another woman who was the mother of his child also took the stand to say he had confided details of the killing to her before his
Oh,
arrest.
shit.
Over the course of the proceedings, the DNA evidence taken from the car, the rape kit, and the cigarette butts, all of which belonged to Goldsby, was presented to the jury, as was his confession. His defense team contended that their client had been sexually abused as a child, forever damaging his psyche. And even though they only had the word of a habitual liar to go on, the judge had mistakenly informed the jury that the defense was under no obligation to prove the allegations to be true. This oversight would allow the panel to take the molestation claims into consideration when rendering their verdict. And that despite the fact that he never told the story the same way twice, often changing the age at which he had been the time of the alleged assault. So they couldn't take it into claim. On March 13th, which would have been Reagan's 23rd birthday, the jury found Goldsby guilty on all counts. A week later, on their recommendation, he was sentenced to life in prison. The death penalty had been an option, but 4 of the 12 jurors had voted against the measure. It appeared as though the defense's tactic of painting him as a victim had worked. Today, Goldsby is being housed at Ohio State Penitentiary, which is a maximum security facility where the worst are locked away to try to keep law-abiding citizens like Reagan Tokes safe. Tokes, in a surprising move, after the verdict, the prosecution filed a cross appeal to have the sentence amended to death. They pointed to the poor instructions given to the jury, and they hoped to have a higher court correct what they believed to be as injustice. And while their attempts ultimately failed, their dedication in wanting Reagan's killer, who's never shown an ounce of remorse for his actions, pay the ultimate price for taking her life was very commendable. Outraged by the cracks in the system that Goldsby had slipped through time and time again, Reagan's family sued NISRE Inc., which is the company tasked with overseeing the halfway house where he was living at the time of the murder, for negligence and allowing him to wander freely with little or no supervision. They also filed suit against the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, the ODRC, for releasing a clearly dangerous criminal back into society despite his inability to abide by the law, even while in prison. The courts did eventually dismiss the case against the ODRC while allowing the complaint against the NISRE to proceed. The suit ended up being settled out of court in 2020, but the terms were not made public. Hoping to prevent future tragedies like this one, the Reagan family rallied Ohio lawmakers to pass the Reagan Tokes Act, which gives officials the power to extend the stays of prisoners who exhibit behaviors that would make them an immediate threat to society. Though an inmate cannot be held past a certain point, this bit of legal leeway would prevent violent offenders who showed no signs of having been rehabilitated from granting early release. And Ohio Senate Bill 201, aka the Reagan Tokes Act, was passed in 2019. On June 5th, 2019, a memorial was unveiled to the public on the grounds of the Scioto Grove Metro Park, dubbed the Tranquility Garden. The expansive display boasts swings, a pond where wildlife are at, as well as a variety of plants and rest areas. From overhead, the site bears a striking resemblance to an angel taking flight. Reagan Tokes was a gifted woman, both athletically and academically. She had an upward bound trend on her life. And she encountered an evil that she couldn't have known existed. She did everything the killer asked for, but it went for nothing. Goldsby knew from the moment he laid eyes on her that she was going to die, and nothing she could have said or done would have made any difference. Over again, $60.
$60.
The success that she worked so hard to achieve was something that Goldsby knew nothing about. He was a career criminal who treated prison like a minor inconvenience. His victims were simply a means to end and nothing more. He took her life and went out for hamburgers afterwards. Even when he was facing the possible death sentence, he pulled out all the stops to save his own skin. It was clear to everyone in the courtroom that, as far as he was concerned, only his life had any meaning. When it was all said and done, it was perfectly clear Goldsby had crossed paths with someone who was honestly was a beacon of light. He was motivated by his own selfish needs. He extinguished that light forever, and that's a void that has been left that could never be filled. as I said at the very beginning of this, there's a lot of these that just make me angry. This one infuriated me.
The
The
guy shouldn't have been on
failure,
the street in the first place.
he
The guy should
absolutely
not
should
should
not.
not have been on the street in the first
No,
place.
absolutely should not have. He was a career criminal. He was habitual. That's why in the state of Texas we got a three-strike rule. You don't pass go. You go to the express lane and you go straight back to jail.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and you get a 3-time felony. You become a big old what they call in the yard a big bitch, which is
yeah.
stands for habitual criminal.
Um,
Uh,
there were so many failures on this. Golby should have been still behind bars. There were people that were assaulted. There were
mhm.
people that were robbed, and a young woman lost her life because of the failure of
I'm
the
looking at the
justice
stuff right now.
system. And
January 24th, January 27th, February 1st, February 2nd, February 6th, and February 7th. So basically, almost every day.
mhm,
Yeah, a couple of days in between.
yeah,
Hell, he robbed one woman for $3.
mhm,
$3.
yeah. That's just why this story made me so angry. Not only who is a habitual criminal, his crimes didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, okay, let me sit up here in my ivory tower and go, what's $3? But I still don't think assaulting someone, raping someone, or killing someone for $3, $60, whatever. How can anyone justify that in their head? How could anyone? That's why this man belonged behind bars. That's why he should have been studied, and he never should have seen the light. He never should have
Yeah.
seen outside those prison walls until he went
What
feet
made
first.
that dude break bad?
Yeah,
Because we definitely don't want people like this on the street. How do we
no,
prevent that? That's why I want these people studied.
yeah.
What are we doing wrong? I got a couple of ideas. Um,
Sure. Don't beat them to being killers.
yeah. Don't be you want to have a serial killer? Don't beat your kids. Don't do it.
If you
Don't
don't
make
want to
them.
breed one, yeah, don't make them because that's certainly going to do it. You've got the McDonald triad, which there's no definitive evidence on that, but it sure does seem to correlate.
Yeah, we
Um,
see it a lot, sir. I
oh yeah,
think in the 4 years we've been doing this, I think we came across one where it didn't happen, and it looked like he may have had
a head injury.
a head injury.
Yeah, trauma to the head. We see a lot of these, a lot of these, especially these ones that are career criminals. Um, Whereas we don't know if it's true in this case or not because Goldsby was a known liar. But according to him, he was abused as a child. According to him, he was raped and molested as a child.
Hmm.
Um, if that's true, again, somebody bred this person to become a killer.
Yeah, yeah,
Somebody bred him to become a
yeah.
killer.
No one. I believe fully that no one is born to be, a super criminal. Hey,
But
this
but
is not
but
the
we
way we
covered
work.
no, we covered that one. We had one where he was actually a born killer. There was no trauma. There was no abuse. It was all genetics. And he did the exact same things his father did, and he never met his father.
Oh yeah, yeah, but he's the one that had the head trauma.
Did he?
Yeah, he ended up having a head trauma. It's like, I bet it was the head trauma.
Hmm. I'd have to go back and read that one. That one was so long ago. That was one of our early ones.
Early.
Early ones. Yeah,
Yeah, like first 20 episodes or something like that.
I'd found that documentary of it. It was called what was it called? Bred to Murder or so. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know. I
something
don't
like
remember
that.
what. But yeah, that's so rare that you don't find anything like that. I mean, ultra rare that you don't
Hmm.
find something like that in their past.
Yeah,
And it's something that's just got to be studied deeply more. And I'm sure they are. You've
yeah.
got you've got psychologists and psychiatrists out there that are employed by these prisons, and they go in and do it. It's just how do we stop it?
Yeah.
How do we stop it from happening? Granted, if we know, yeah, this is what does it, this is what turns that key, this is what breaks them bad. How do we stop it?
How do we stop it? Yeah, it's gonna be looking at.
That's the
And
hard
also,
part.
I also want to point out, if the person actually exists, wouldn't you hate to be his buddy TJ? That motherfucker ain't even there. That motherfucker trying to hang a murder on my ass.
Yeah, if there's actually a TJ, yeah, I think I would have been like, motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
Anyway, that is the story of the murder of Reagan Tokes.
Thank you for that, sir.
Where am I? That takes us the end of another recording week. Sorry, I have to get over I got angry every time I read over, recapped, and
Yeah, it's like,
found
what?
new articles.
Wait, what? They did what?
13 and
We
14.
get a GPS tracker of him?
Yeah,
And it was working? What the fuck?
I know.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So that'll take us to the end of another recording week. You can find more information about us on nerderymurdery.com. That's our hub. That's for everything we talk about here. You'll find links to the things we talk about, pictures of things we talk about, as well as our link to our YouTube page with Zig so often updates.
Yeah, check this one out. It's got, especially for that Darkhorse, basically short 40-minute documentary. It's fucking fantabulous.
Awesome. Appreciate all the work you do on that.
Thanks, sir.
Give a listen for next week's episode for 222. I am excited about this one because this is our Rio Grande Valley music episode.
Yes,
right?
Yes, and we've got guests for this one, right?
You know what? I didn't ask Jen if she wanted to be on. I'll ask her. I'll see her this week. Jen is one of the bartenders where I golf, and she is the one that when we were talking about the show, asked if we had looked into bands of the Rio Grande Valley. And so Zig started listening to him, and he's like, "Oh fuck yeah, I'm doing an episode on this."
Oh fuck yeah! I only added one. She gave me a list of like 8 or 9, and I was like,
and I don't know if she can be on or not. She does work late nights, so maybe not. And we do record this early in the morning, but I'm excited about this episode, and I'm giving
her
Jen.
name is in the episode title.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Jen.
We'll give her a thanks next week, but in case she's listening to this week in anticipation, Jen, thank you for this. I've listened.
Yeah.
It's some good stuff. I can't wait to cover this.
Yeah.
So thank you. So thank you for our YouTube page. That's where you'll find that playlist for 222. You can also find the link to our merchandise page, where if you wish to show off your Nerdery and Murdery fandom, please do consider something from there. You'll also find the link to our Patreon account. Our patrons, along with our people who purchase merchandise, do help with the costs that are associated with this show. It is not cheap. It costs to keep us on the air for our uploads, for our website, and everything that goes into this show. We do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. One thing you can do for free, however, is leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find our content that may be looking for the information that we talk about. Trust me, that affects the algorithms. So please leave those comments and those 5-star ratings.
Please.
Last, but certainly not least, to our good friend Chuck. Time to go to sleep.
Good night, Chuck.
Good night, Chuck. With that,
I have been Zig with your Nerdery.
And I'm Geoffrey with your Murdering.
Cue the music.
Static crackles, dreams stay. Nerdery and murdery fake. Voices in the wire. Two dudes light the fire. Obsession and confession. Games in death procession. Through the microphone they speak. Dark secrets geeks seek. imagination can